Sweet like my bestie, the bestie da la bestie, fine friend. I say, see bestie wanting to wealthy, fine friend.
It's so wonderful Tuesday in Liberia. It's the 31st day of January 2023. This is Punch TV. The program is Trending Issues. My name is Vanny Dix. I am exceedingly pleased to welcome you to this fascinating presentation of the program. This is Punch TV. This is the program Trending Issues. From across Liberia, you are there in the diaspora. I would like to say good afternoon where you are, good morning wheresoever you are. Welcome to the program. This edition promises to be a good one, a better one, a very great one as well. So on today, we have invited a team of panelists to come and discuss and share their thoughts on President Weah's final State of the Nation address that was delivered on yesterday. Article 58 of the Liberian Constitution placed that mandate upon the president to report to members of the legislature. He's actually reporting to the Liberian people, but it is done through their elected officials. So on today, folks have been drawn from diverse backgrounds to come and share their thoughts. We are hoping to have Assistant Information Minister David Kole from the Ministry of Information. Molba Keseli is the Secretary General for the Youth Congress of the Alternative National Congress. Madam Kula Fofanan, Acting Chairperson, Public Relations Committee, Unity Party. Nemod Big Man, the Executive Director of Nemod, Mr. Eddie Jawolo, is also part of our panel. Mr. Anderson Myanmar, Executive Director of Center, that's the Center for Transparency and Accountability in Liberia. Sheikh Al Mustafa Kuyate, former Montreal County senatorial candidate. Ernest Duku Jala is the head of Secretariat of the Federation of Liberian Youth. Honorable Hensin Kazulu, District 17 representative, is going to weigh in as well on the program. And so wheresoever you are this afternoon, we will be having Mohamed Shabas. He's the SUP propaganda chairperson. He's going to be joining us as well on the program. So wheresoever you are, this is the program Trending Issues. My name is Vanny Dix. Again, it is my pleasure to welcome you to this program. Wheresoever you are, share the program. You are in the diaspora, please make sure that you share this edition of the program. You will hear in Liberia later on during the program. We'll open the phone lines to allow you to have your say today. This is it. The State of Nation address on yesterday, what I'm telling people is that it has started cooling the pressure down on the attention that was being placed on Stanton Witherspoon regarding his case with the U.S. government. So a host of issues to talk about. We have been going through the address that was delivered on yesterday by His Excellency President George Weah. This is going to take several days. It's going to be in the public wherein Liberians are going to be weighing in on this address that was delivered on yesterday. Many issues to talk about. We will open the phone lines. Like I said, 775-145-832 is the number that you will call later on during the program to be a part of the say. But wheresoever you are, this is the program Trending Issue. We are here big time to punch you with great and fascinating topics. And so this is just where we are on the program. We are being told that some of our guests are en route to this place, and we are going to indeed have a wonderful discussion. But again, like I said, the topical issues today, and which we will be looking at is the State of Nation address that was delivered on yesterday by His Excellency President George Mannen Weah. Not to jump the gun, I have got some issues also regarding the address that was delivered on yesterday, but we will afford the panelists the opportunity to first weigh in on some of these issues, and in subsequent time as well, we will be coming in with these things. But due to the time factor, we can't have much issues to talk about, but rather to join our guests on the platform this afternoon. So bit by bit, we will be linking them up on the screen wheresoever you are. Join us. This is Trending Issues. This is Sponge TV. Mr. Eddie Jawolo is live on the screen. We will be having the rest of the other guys as well joining us on the screen. So this is it. Mr. Jawolo, welcome.
Thank you for Thank you so much for the opportunity, Vanessa and team, and it's good that we can have a national conversation on the President's State of the Nation address to the Liberian people.
Thank you. Mola Cassidy, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Vani. Good afternoon to all Liberians back home. It's good to be here this afternoon, particularly sharing the platform with a lot of Liberians from diverse backgrounds, and such discussions are healthy for improving our democracy. So it's good to be here again.
Mr. Miame, I hope I'm getting the name right. Is that the name, Miame?
Yes, that's it.
Okay, you will have to adjust your camera. I'm only seeing your head. Okay, thank you. It's much better. Welcome to the program.
Thank you, Vani, and warm welcome to all of my fellow panelists. I'm grateful to be here. I look forward to a very interactive conversation.
Thank you. Daku Jala, warm greetings and welcome to the program. Daku, there seems to be a problem from your end. I'm expecting Madam Kula Fofana. She's already headed to our direction. Honorable Kazulu also has informed me that he's headed here as well. Daku, welcome again. We're not getting audio from your end. Okay. While we're trying to get the audio fixed up with Daku, we will kick up the ball rolling, beginning with you, Honorable Jawolo. Let us get the ball rolling with your own aspect of the speech on yesterday. Basically, the question for you and Mr. Miame is going to be related, and we will also have cross-pollination as well with the guests. You can weigh in on some of the issues that your colleague will be saying on the platform today. But I would like to know from you, what are some of the highlights that you capture from President Weah's State of the Nation address on yesterday? Beginning with you.
So,
and this question will go around the table.
Yeah. So what we captured yesterday from President Weah is we're actually looking at promises he made and looking at achievement of issue that he talked about. So if you look at some of the issues the president talked about on ensuring a speedy passage of the affirmative bill.
Okay.
This was already done. If you look at the amended electoral law by the legislature in September 2022, the electoral law already captured the 30%. Mm-hmm. Surprisingly, the president have not signed that document. Yeah. Under that, we also had the amendment of Code of Conduct, which gave room for people in government, executive who want to contest or get involved in political activities to resign 1 year. The president has not signed that document. Okay. So I don't know who put that in the speech of the president, but that was an error.
Okay. The affirmative action.
Affirmative bill is already in electoral law.
Okay.
That was passed in September 2022, and just need the president to sign. The president has not signed. You don't even know what the document is.
Okay.
And I think that the president missed a mark. I mean, to serve for more than 5 years, and you're trying to go for re-election, and you have the opportunity to tell the Liberian people why you should be re-elected. If you look at the president's achievement, when he spoke about achievement, talked about the proper agenda, he went straight to the economy. He talked about millions and billions and millions. We're all being specific on each of the pillars that he elected him. On the pillar 1, what did he achieve? On the pillar 2, pillar 1, power to the people, what did he achieve? Pillar 2, economy and job, what did he achieve? Pillar 3, sustain the peace, what did he achieve? Pillar 4, talking about sustain the peace. So we talk the president going to be more specific under this pillar, under the party manifesto that elected him to office, to be able to tell the Liberian people, I promise you this, I have done this. If you give me the chance, I will do this.
You think the statement was vague?
For me, it was actually vague. It was very difficult to track achievement. It was broad, it was vague, it was too long that you couldn't capture, or you couldn't be specific on capturing any achievement in the program. So I told the president focus more on the economy, less on governance, less on power to the people pillar, less on specific achievement that he did. It was too broad. And I think the second thing now is that we got to be clear that two things I noted from the people on the other side is arrogant and political intolerant.
Which people, when you say the people
on the other side?
No, can you be specific? Can you
people in the government? People of the government were not sincere in matching what the president was elected for, what the promises he made against what he ended up to. So for more than 5 years, you made promises. You came up with a manifesto called they call it Hope for Change or Change for Hope. But there are specific activities that you promise Liberian people under that particular party manifestos. I thought at the end of your tenure for the first year, you're going to match what you have done against what you promised. But for me, it was very difficult to see that. Apparently, my colleagues saw something different. But I thought the president missed the mark to be able to really build the energy of Liberian to say, Mr. President, you have done well based on what you promised all to do and what you have done. If you go to the speech, you see a lot of repetition all around the economy, but surprisingly, you can see result on the favorite trip you went to, going to this country. Yes, going to the country, Mr. President, what did we achieve from
the dividends that you accrued from those visits?
The issue about governance was actually not tempered with much. The issue of governance and transparency were not captured in the president's speech. They were more on the economy than the governance and transparency that will strengthen the betterment of us. The bread and butter issue. What is the bread and butter issue? When President Williams addressed the nation in 2017, he promised the bread and butter issue. But it was difficult. You couldn't find the bread and butter issue also. So I think as we go through the discussion, we see that the president had an opportunity to tell Liberian people why he should be re-elected. That did not come out in the speech to me.
So this question is going to go around the floor. Madam Fofana, let me welcome you to the platform this afternoon.
Thank you very much. It is an honor to be here for the first time. And let me commend the Punch team for the brilliant and excellent work so far that have been put into this effort. This is something that we need in Liberia, a different kind of system. And let me applaud you and the team as well as my own dear brother Patrick and the people working behind the scenes to get this up and running. Congratulations, and I'm happy to be here.
Thank you so much. So the question that is going around the table now is, what are some of the highlights that you captured from the president's speech yesterday? It can be both ways, whether the positive one, whether there were falsehoods that were spewed, just the highlights that you captured on yesterday, and then we move on to some of the other substantive issues.
Well, thank you very much. I think, to be honest, I was disappointed listening to the president's final term annual message. As I walked in the studio, I heard my brother talking about the missed opportunities, and I think the president really missed the mark. He was elected. I was disappointed, but also I didn't expect anything much. The reason was simple because, as we all remember, when we followed the conversation during the electoral process time in 2011, we didn't really hear anything substantive in terms of the platform that the team at the time they were pushing for the Liberian people. So we didn't hear much, and because we didn't hear much, there was an opportunity for the president to literally, because if you remember during the time of the debate or the conversations that were happening, he was not producing, or he was not even attending any of those intellectual forums.
There were public debates held, and he did not attend.
So the public really did not receive an appreciation of what his regime would have been about. So coming to his final annual message of his term, I mean, we expected that he would have outlaid some achievements, some things he's really proud of. But I think it was basically about I think that was just a forum to tell the Liberian people that I want to be re-elected.
Okay.
And I mean, I was disappointed, but
Okay.
also not surprised.
Okay. So this question is coming to you, Mr. Miamel. From Center's angle, what did you capture from President Weah's address on yesterday?
So thank you, Vani, again for this opportunity. I'm glad to be here. I'd like to build upon what the other speakers have said, perhaps not repeating some of the things they've said, but if I'm to generally look at the speech and tell what I captured, I would say, first of all, that yes, the president fulfilled his constitutional mandate to speak to the public, the Liberian people, through the legislature about what he's done over the last 5 years. There are different arguments around the length of the speech, whether it's the longest.
So, Mr.
Hello?
Anderson, are you
Yeah.
getting me? Yeah, from
I'm getting-
Center's end, I want to hear from the issue of transparency and governance issues. What did you capture from those angles?
Yes, I'm coming to that. So,
Okay.
of course, we're keen about governance, accountability, transparency, and integrity. And on that front, we didn't really get much from the president. We really did not expect to get much from him on that, because consistently we talked about how he has been feeling on this commitment. So if you look at the PAPD and the Pillar on Governance and Transparency, when it was developed, the government said very clearly that it would have taken Liberia's score on the Corruption Perception Index, which is an annual report that is produced by Transparency International, and rates countries according to how clean or corrupt their public sectors are. By the time the president took office in 2018, we were at 32 on a CPR on a scale of 1 to 100. What the president and his government have done is to preside over retrogression, our decline on that CPR. Last year we were at 28, 29 rather. This year we dropped by 3 points to 26. So if you look at the fight against corruption and much of what the president was saying yesterday, and you match them with the reality, they do not really connect, because he was making it to appear like he has really done much in the fight against corruption or governance wise, but then the indications are very clear that he has not done much. Liberia has gone backwards when it comes to the fight against corruption. To the
Okay.
extent that all he had to speak to were bills that were passed and a few others that were amended. There was nothing substantive in terms of, for example, actions that were taken against officials,
Okay.
individuals that were investigated and prosecuted for corruption, officials of the past government that he has consistently said were corrupt. But we haven't seen any action in terms of people going after these people. Of course,
Wonderful,
duly to
wonderful.
investigate and
We will hold you
prosecute.
there
Yeah.
and come to Molba. Molba, let
Yeah.
me bring you in. What are some of the key highlights you captured from yesterday's speech, be it positive or negative? Whether there was falsehood that was spewed, what did you capture from the speech on yesterday?
I mean, thank you again. You know, when the president began delivering speech yesterday and came to the issue of the 54th legislature, the president said that this 54th legislature has enacted almost 200 acts. He did not give us a specific number of the total number of acts his government has presented to the legislature, the ones they've passed on, and the ones he signed actually into law. So the president went to deliver his last State of the Nation address without clear data from his government. From that very beginning, he told Liberian people that his government has not even been tracking the progress of what they've presented to the legislature, what has come back to them, and where we are standing in terms of the laws. Another thing that really struck my attention is that when he talked about the Domestic Violence Act, the president said the Domestic Violence Act will begin or is expected to start ensuring that our women are protected and there's some equality in the gender parity in the governance structure. Mr. Weah is telling us that the act that passed in 2019, Domestic Violence Act passed in July of 2019, he signed it into law in August 2019. Yesterday, he went to the Liberian people and told us that he is still expecting that law to start impacting the Liberian citizenry. I mean, what kind of president is that? You've had a law on the books for several years, and to date, you cannot tell us that because we passed the Domestic Violence Act, we've been able to clamp down on issues of women and girls' rights violations in the country. But you are still telling us we expect the law to take effect. When will the laws take effect? When you have already, signed them. So look, the president was just wasted our time. He spoke unnecessarily long. He did not have details about the things he really wanted to capture. And he was far removed from the reality on the ground. Our president spoke like the president of another country, not the president of Liberia, because what he spoke to did not reflect the reality in the Liberian society.
Okay. Let us bring in the voice of Soup as well on this subject. Today, you convened a special press conference. I did watch the live feed on Facebook. You term the president's address as gibberish. You said total false who were being spewed. What are some of the specifics within that speech that Soup have got some issues with? And then tell us some of the, because we know about one of the things that the government is bragging about is the tuition-free policy that the CDC-led government talks about instituting. But what are some of the things that remain unaddressed regarding the student body?
Well, thank you very much. I want to use the occasion to extend warm revolutionary salutations to the Punch FM family for inviting the Student Unification Party to come and provide, and give a perspective on the State of the Nation address. I want to emphasize the last State of the Nation address of Mr. Weah. And I also want to say I'm glad to share the platform with Big Brother Eddie, who has been very participative and very engaged in the democratic process of our country. And I also want to be very appreciative for sharing the platform with our own sister, our own mother, Madam
Kula
Fofana, an administrator at the University of Liberia. But the Student Unification Party was very blunt today, and the chairman of the party characterized and referred to the statement of President Weah, or the State of the Nation address of President Weah, as falsehood, as in doubles, in lies and disinformation. The president took on the air yesterday to inform the Liberian people that 6 years along the line, his leadership has managed to stabilize the economy. And the direct question of the chairman of the Student Unification Party was, how can an exceptional economy in the sub-region cannot account for one foreign direct investment after 6 years in leadership? After the president is bragging about stabilizing the economy, how can a stabilized economy cannot also account for, the provision of jobs and youth empowerment? This clearly informed the world and the Liberian people that 6 years down the line, Mr. Weah has abandoned the conditions of the Liberian people. Mr. Weah has neglected the masses of the young people, and this is why the Student Unification Party took Mr. Weah to task by asking him a particular question about the 1 million job he promised the masses of the people. Because when we do the division, it tells you that in the PAPD, Mr. Weah was very, very ambitious. I mean, he had a lot of ambitious promises to the fact that he had the gust to say to the people that he could have provided 1 million jobs within the period of 6 years. Let's do the analysis. 1 million jobs. 1 million jobs. The president said he could have provided 1 million jobs for the Liberian people. If we do the division in the period of 72 months, 72 months is equivalent to 6 years. As a leadership in the government should be providing 13,888 jobs. Where are the jobs? Is the president telling us that he provided, jobs in the quantity of Orange Mini and Lustar Mini? Because everywhere in the country, this is the only available jobs. Is the president telling us that he has condemned the young people to motorcycles and other means of unemployment?
Okay.
So we'll go ahead within a period.
So what I want us to do, so we can have this more interactive, we will be swapping across, so one person doesn't take much time while others keep waiting to come on. But let us have the introductory comment coming from Sheikh Mustafa Kuyate. Welcome to the platform.
Wow, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm pleased to share the platform with noblemen and a sister. And I want to say that President Weah's speech yesterday was a confession of falsehood. The president, everything he said yesterday, on his speech, on his logo, it was a clear indication that he was not speaking to Liberian people. He just saying some things to please himself. Even those who are clapping for him are aware that the president was not speaking the truth. But however, I am one person who supports President Weah for the presidency. And I apologize to Liberian people for bringing the nightmare to them. I apologize to them for bringing the man that I thought was a leader, but indeed he's a handicap and an ability, and become a serious burden on our people. But the president talk about
this is why I already thought we could have David Kohler from the arm of government to come and really give the government's own position, and I'm hoping that he can join us along the way, because the invitation was extended to him prior to me communicating with the rest of you people. But let us look at it the other way around. This government has said, and which of course some of us see, there were things that were not in place. There were things that were not available, that were not around. But with the presence of this government, some of those things are around today, which they cite. The military hospital, roads that are being paved in communities, roads that are being paved in a different part of the counties. We talk about the tuition-free policy at the state-run university. The government also, one of the key things it brags about is that the issue of bringing down inflation, from what it says was 30% under the Ellen-led government to somewhere around 7%. So when you look at all of these things, then it means that there are some positive. I don't know where I stand on this. Are there some positives on the part of this government? Any one of you?
So let me address the issue of tuition free at the University of Liberia. Because everywhere you go, people talk about tuition free. And want to say to the Liberian people and to the people of the world that Mr. Weah has, inferior education at the University of Liberia. He has went foot up to worsen the conditions at the university. Mr. Weah went at the University of Liberia and declared tuition free. As a responsible government, a government that means well for education, and that should be the business of all serious governments across the world, to ensure that education is provided for the people, because it is only through quality education that a prosperous nation can be realized.
Is the free tuition
Mr.
policy
Weah went
not...
at the University of Liberia and announced tuition free. Let us do the calculation. When there was no tuition free at the University of Liberia, all right, the regular budget that was appropriated to the university was in the tune of 16 to 17 million. But Mr. Weah went at the university and declared tuition free. And students were paying $4 per credit. Let's do the calculation. $4 times 21 credits. If you do the calculation, $4 times 21 credits, all right, you will get like 1,680,000 United States dollars. All right, that is the money the students were paid to deposit into the account of the University of Liberia. Since tuition free was declared, the budget that is appropriated for the university, it is in that very money that the university is reflecting the tuition free. In this year's budgetary allotment to the University of Liberia, the university is allotted 18,805,000. And in that very money, the government cannot even account for the tuition that they pretend to be taking responsibility of. When the students' total tuition fee was in the tune of 1,680,000, the government is allocating 1,440,000 as a commitment to the tuition-free policy. All right, in that very 80 million, they took away 1,440,000, deduct the 1,440,000 from the 80 million the government appropriated the university. Go ahead to deduct 300,000 that is there squarely for Doc Latis. Go ahead again and deduct 500,000 that is allotted for the quote-unquote cosmetic renovation of the University of Liberia. If you do all of these deductions, you realize the actual budget that is given to the university is 16,565,000.
Madam Fofana.
This clearly says that over the period, the remark and position of the president towards education at the University of Liberia is not backed
Madam
by
Fofana,
seriousness.
your
it
government
is backed by political romance and political massage.
Thank
and
you.
This is what the Student Unification Party opposed.
I read through excerpts of the president's speech, and I think much of the constraints
and much of the reasons why his government could not achieve, according to him, some of the great achievement was because he inherited a disaster from your government, the Unity Party-led government. How do you respond to that?
Well, first of all, if we can all recall, the Liberian people overwhelmingly voted President Weah and his oath of officers to pick up from where he started as the former ruling party. And to say because he did not achieve is our blame. But let's be realistic. Where did the Unity Party-led government take the country? In 2005, we had absolutely nothing. The country had come from devastating period of war. All of us here testimony or bear witness that we still had gun shells
on the street. We had nothing. There was no structure. There was no governance structure. There was absolutely nothing. A Unity Party-led government took the country from absolutely nowhere and brought the country to a place of respectability. In fact, at the time, we had civil up to where we left the country. Civil servant took pay even way before the end of the month. Ask civil servant today. What's the date of today? Today is the 31st. Yeah. Civil servants have not even taken pay. They've not. So besides just having a broad, blatant conversation or blaming the former ruling party to say, oh, because I'm not achieving because of the Unity Party. See where we took the country from. There was nothing called electricity. In fact, there was absolutely no road network. And all of the projects, the road project that yesterday President Weah pointed out to, these were projects that the Unity Party-led government started, left in the place so that they can come and continue where we came from. All the discussions, even the road he talked about, the road network he talked about, these were conversations, these were agreements, these were programs that the Unity Party-led government started. Even the electricity today, he talked about the West Africa Power Pool. He also talked about the line that's coming, the CLSG line that comes from Cote d'Ivoire coming to Liberia.
Yeah, it was signed in 2013. I do remember that.
So this is just to tell you that the president had nothing to offer, nothing to say, but just to. But if you ask the Liberian people, how much were we buying cup of rice during the Unity Party-led government? How much were we buying rice today? Even the available. Basic commodities that Liberian people, Liberian people in our rice business. So we can even go to the numbers, because for us, we like to be very practical.
Okay.
The Unity Party today did her response to the president's message.
Okay.
And in those response, we were very specific
About
the downward trend of our country and how this government has blatantly failed the Liberian people.
Okay.
You see corruption, broad daylight, and then you say what?
Whenever the president delivers the State of Nation address, he comes under public attention, scrutiny. But we have got another branch that is very significant in this process. But just to add up to what Madam Fofana was saying, the UN head of mission that took office when Omio came in this country, he said there was virtually nothing that the UNDP could measure Liberia by at the time. And the late Harry Greaves said at the time the Liberian budget was just around some $18 million of the whole country, 18 million United States dollars. But why don't we bring to this kind of spotlight members of the legislature? Molba, let me have your say on this issue. Members of the legislature have got a very key part to play regarding where we are as a country, regarding where we want to be as a country. But yet much of the attention is already brought down on the president. Why is it so?
Vani, in a country where we have imperial presidency, it is quite understandable why a lot of our people focus their discussions on the president, because the president is the chief architect policy direction our country takes in 6 years. You see, the actions and inactions of Mr. Weah have primarily driven the legislative agenda of this regime. The executive, through the president, decides to ensure that the legislature works well and that they hold a legislature accountable and ensure that information is readily available to the Liberian public. The president failed in doing that, and the legislature largely followed. I mean, this is not an excuse for legislators who have failed to also live up to the social contract they signed with their various constituencies. But the
Molba, you need to do some adjustment there. We are getting of feedback. I'm being told there is echo coming from your end.
Okay, let me make the adjustment.
Yes, so if it will require you going off and coming back on why you do that, let us get Mr. Jawolo's view on this subject. Members of the legislature, why don't we also place much emphasis on them when it comes to this issue of whether corruption, bad economy, all of the attention is placed on the legislature, on the president, thus making it to appear that these people have got a free ride.
Finding the issue about the legislature, which party they come from?
From variety of parties. From
the speaker come from the ruling party. Deputy speaker from the ruling party. Senate Pro Tem from the ruling party. The president of the Senate come from the ruling party. So we cannot shift the blame too much. The president is the head of state. I just want to go back a little bit on the president commitment on free, election.
Yeah,
transparent
he did
election.
commit himself to that.
President, we are 9 months to election. The election commission have received less than 25% allocated and approved budget. How do you talk about free and fair election when you're not giving support to the election commission? Election commission now.
And he asked members of the legislature to secure that money, which means the money is not available yet.
We're 9 months.
Yeah, the money is not available.
Elections a process, a preparation that take out to free, fair, credible election. The National Election Commission is seriously underfunded. They are struggling to even go ahead with preparation towards conducting of the biometric system, which is going to be the first of its kind in Liberia.
Okay.
So I think the president will not fair to the Liberian people.
Okay.
Right? So if the president actually wants free, fair, transparent election, he needs to support the National Election Commission, keep them as an independent institution, give them the finances together. We're done. President mishonor. The president also came on the issue about Jannah. I think he did work on Jannah issue. We released our president meter report. We talk about how the president and the government have done well with Jannah issues. So yes, he took a mark for that. And I also think that the president's speech did not capture specific achievement. I don't know who wrote the speech for him, but a lot. The issue about the medical hospitals in Bapolo, in the Riverside, in most of the country. President was so broad on everything.
Yeah.
Like he wanted to achieve so much into a short time of what he had done in the past 5 years.
Okay.
So I think the president missed the opportunity, but that all the issue that she should write on, she had to talk about the good thing he had done. The issue also human rights. He not say much about the death, unexplained death, the rape, a lot of things at the president level. So as the president in the first term, there are a lot of unanswered questions that people will not have until somebody can take your time to write a book about President. We have to get first term. These are the issues that are on any. The issue about the passport.
Yeah. Cool. No, let me get cool.
No. The issue about the passport. The issue about the passport. The diplomatic passport that have been sold. President said nothing about it. The issue about the guy just in the U.S. where they had to wait for him to make sure that he served as agent to give the American people information. Issue about the session. President said nothing about the issue.
Okay.
He left everything and just focused on the positive. And I know there are challenges that the government feel that President was not clear on those challenges that he feel not helping him.
Madam Kula, you were trying to.
Right, I was going to talk about the that specifically on health. And this president focused a lot on building the structure, the physical structure. For example, he talked about the Emiratis hospital, he talked about the 14 military hospital. But if you go to JFK, for example, or our other hospitals around, these places do not even have the necessary equipment to cater to patients. So for example, if you get ill, I mean, I've gone to JFK a couple of times with family members, you get there during emergency hours, they'll tell you no bed. You have space, the entire 4th floor of JFK is empty, nothing there. So instead of constructing using millions of dollars to construct structures that will not be functional, those were the things the president looked at.
Okay.
Our conversation now should be, why should we use the resources, even if they were given by a friendly government, but let the case be made to equip the hospitals that we already have.
Okay.
There's not a lack of hospitals. What we lack is the personnel, the quality that's needed. You go around the country, I heard that there was an issue in Buncombe, for example, at the TB hospital. Because there was no fuel, you had situations of that nature where babies, had to not get treated. So the challenge, this president, this money field, that's what we have said over time, that if you put someone like President George Weah, who has no idea on governance, who has no idea on how to
even though he spent 5 to 6 years running down, you think he still doesn't, he hasn't catch up?
Trust me, the thing with governance is not something you can learn while you're there. It's not something that you can just go there and say, okay, let's see how. It's not a soccer pitch where you say, okay, I've been practicing, let me just come and kick the ball, and they say, football at this game, right? That's not governance, especially so with a country like Liberia. Liberia had come from a period of 14 years of civil conflict.
Okay.
We have been in a fragile state. To have someone to consistently transition our country upward trend, you don't need someone.
Mr. Miame, what are some of the cases from Center's angle that you have been involved with? Some of the things that you know Center has been involved with, you expected to have heard on yesterday that were not captured in the president's address. I know there was a state of corruption report released by Center a year or two ago, but what are some of the recent ones? His audio, I'm not getting you. Okay.
Hello?
You coming in now?
Okay,
Yeah, let's get
I
you.
wouldn't sit here and say that nothing has happened or the president hasn't done anything during the 5 years and more he has been in office for. Some things have happened. For example, infrastructure, like Eddie said, some of the other people. This is one area that he has been focusing on. Of course, the quality of the roads that are being built, the medical facilities, and all the different structures, that's a whole different thing to look at. But he has been doing some work in that direction. Of course, laudably. Yes, I agree with Kula that the institutions we have, especially the medical facilities, are not fully supported. They don't have the materials required to provide the quality of services to the people. Yes, that's true, but yes, the new hospitals that have been built, the schools that have been built or renovated, we need to talk about them and highlight them. And the fact also that the land rights law, for example, was passed, the local
Yeah.
government act, and some of the other instruments that are very important, the revenue sharing law, for example. These are instruments that, are meant to take, power to the people, to make citizens to be active players in the governance process.
So
And these
you
are
think there are some
provide.
commendable things?
Of course. But
Okay.
like I said from the beginning, the whole issue of governance is one area that the president has failed miserably. He hasn't paid attention to governance. All of the different indicators, point to a downward trend in Liberia in terms of our performance. Even the MCC scorecard that we're talking about, if you look at the result that Liberia has, comparing it to other countries, the indicator on corruption, that passing mark is very negligible. I was talking about the state of corruption report that Centar released last year, and the one we released just this year. That report shows that confidence in the executive to fight against corruption is very low. From
Okay.
30 last year, the confidence level dropped to 26 this year. And just today, we released the 2022 edition of the Corruption Perception Index of Transparency International. And that
What is
report
there for
says
Liberia?
Liberia has declined from 32 in 2018 to 26. So we actually came from 29 last year, dropped by 3 points to 26 this year. I must also say that, yes, the president has been failing in the fight against corruption, but the previous regime, credit to Madam Salih for setting up the different integrity institutions we have, LACC, Internal Audit Agency, LEITI, and many of the other structures. But even when Madam Salih was leaving office, she presided over decline of Liberia's performance on these indicators. The CPR under Madam Salih was at 41 in 2012. When she was leaving office, it came down to 32. So we wouldn't sit here, of course, me to particularly to make it to appear like the previous government had everything moving smoothly. We saw the bankruptcy of Nokar. Scandals came up against officials of the previous government. The president put her neck on the chopping board, but she has gone. We elected this government on the mantra of change, so that they changed the bad things that the previous government did and build upon the good things that happened. So yes, the other conversations around the rest of the other indicators.
Mr. Miame, I will have Madam Fofana respond to you, but not now. Let me bring in Kula and then go back to I will get to Fla and then go to Soup. But let me bring in Mobile first on this subject of members of the legislature. He was in speech prior to going off.
I mean, as I was saying, why the legislature to also take a huge chunk of the blame for the decadence in our governance structure. The president takes the bulk of the blame because the way our governance structure is set up, the presidency through the executive primarily determines the path on which the government runs. The president is the chief architect of our policy draft. The president determines the legislative agenda to a very large extent. No matter what the legislature does, in essence, it has to be enforced by the executive branch, and that is headed by the Liberian presidency. You saw that when the president reported yesterday, for example, he could not clearly tell you how the acts that has come from the legislature, and gone back to the executive and passed into law, have been able to change the livelihood of the Liberian people. Most of the things the president stated were not fact-based. He was giving us hypotheses and assumptions at this point. So why you say the legislature is weak and has not been able to really push for accountability and exercise its oversight responsibility, you have to blame the president for the failures in this government. He takes the
Let me bring in Fly. He's been on the screen for a while. Duku, welcome to the program. I'm not getting audio from here.
Am I better? Am I clear?
Yeah, you're much okay, Chief.
Thank you so much, and it's an honor to be here. I'm sorry I'm joining late. So I mean, I will just give my general.
What is FLA's position on the statement on yesterday, so we can run quickly?
Our position is clear, but I first want to state that at the Federation of Liberian Youth, we have a responsibility to take a non-partisan approach to issues such as these, and this is what we're going to be working throughout. Our position has been clear. The State of the Nation address should essentially address the challenges in the country, set the president, the accomplishments of the regime of the past year, as well as the legislative agenda for the forthcoming year. And I think the president was not really substantive on the youth agenda. There were some gains, but at the level of the federation, we're hoping to hear more about what the president will do on the issue of unemployment, on the issue of reforming education, and so forth. And so our position is clear. We have called on the government to increase support for youth development, especially under the national budget. Right
The
now,
government through the Ministry of Youth and Sports is engaged with a lot of TVET programs across the country. I see Malaya Zeh Sharif every day is engaged with these things. Are there not effort being made?
that is laudable. Under the new budget, there's been increased support for TVET. There's been increased support for toward addressing the issue of vulnerable young people. But then there's also reduced support for the National Cadet Program. There's reduced support for the temporary employment for young people program. We're also proposing that there has to be a solid support for youth entrepreneurship, a solid support for innovation, creativity, and also we also call on the government to establish a national youth innovation creativity center. So generally, I think the speech was not heavy on youth development. There were some gains, but there's so much we need to talk about, and there's so much the government.
You highlighted issues of job opportunities as well. So how do we strike the balance? I meant a number of barometers to measure the president by. You have the issue of the economy, you have issue of security, you have issue of job that is everywhere under the economy. As we edge onto 2023 elections, what are some of those things you think the voters are going to really hold President Weah by? Infrastructure, other issues are being talked about, but what are the cogent issues that voters are really going to be concerned with?
I think the causing issue is the economy. Over 3 million people living in this country are young people. That constitute around 65%. And what people are really concerned about is the economy. As well as the basic social services.
Okay, let me get Mohammed on that. Mohammed, what do you think Liberians are going to be holding President Weah by?
Well, basically, we want to say it is disappointing for a representation of the Federation of Liberian Youth to come onto this platform and see how the president abandoned the issue of young people and say he does not want to take a partisan line. And of course, that institution was fundamentally established to protect and ensure that the rights of young people are preserved and protected by all means. I mean, but he is saying that non-partisan, this is a government that have reduced the status of the country on the Human Development Index amongst 92 countries. Liberia ranks 178. This is the government that reduced the status of the country in the hunger index amongst 121 countries. Liberia ranks 113. This is the very government. This is the very government. On the multi-dimensional poverty rate, the current status of the country, Liberia rates 52.3.
Daku, let me get him to respond to that. Daku, Mohammed doesn't want you to be.
How will you respond when?
No, you made a point.
Give me the latitude to conclude.
I'm coming, Chief.
Give me latitude to conclude.
I'm coming, boss man.
Let me conclude.
I'm coming, Chief.
How will you
boss man?
When I have not concluded?
You made a point. I just want you to respond to that regarding the non-partisan issue. He said you shouldn't be.
You come here. You want to
say that.
romanticize the condition the young people go through.
So yeah,
there's a CDG flag.
Mohammed, let us hear Daku.
To be partisan, and were created by law. Our responsibility is to serve as partners to government.
Okay.
And so our conversation has to be solution based. We can always talk about the problems, we can talk about the issues and challenges, but our focus has to be solution. What are the solutions? What role flag?
But Mohammed believes that given the gravity of the economic situation, Fly needs to now start aligning with maybe political institutions to champion the voices of the people. Do you think that is necessary from your end?
But Fly has.
No, but you're not quoting me rightly.
No, you said.
No, but you asking a particular question. He said to you, reacting on the position of young people to give a definite response to that question, it shows a partisanship.
No,
which is disappointing.
No, he did say.
You asked me a particular question.
He did say,
and Mr. Huya did not address the condition of young people. What is the position of the Federation of Liberian Youth on the state of the nation address? And he comes here to romanticize his speech. Mr. Huya decimally failed. The ranks of the country in the Human Development Index is 116. In the Hunger Index is 113. In the multi-dimensional poverty rate, the rate of the country is 52.3. The people who are vulnerable, to multi-dimensional poverty is 23.3. When combined, it will amount to 75.6.
I get
it tells you that the masses of the young people are vulnerable in this country.
Great. Let us come back. So Daku's position is that there is a policy that brought into being Fly that requires Fly not to embark on a partisan approach. That was the point from which he came. But let me now move on to something that was very important we were talking about. President Weah goes to the legislature. He addresses that body. There is nothing like after speaking, and then the legislature now goes and review what was said to them, and then calls him again to another meeting and say, we did our own investigation. These are some of the lies that were told, or maybe these are some of the shortcomings. Maybe I'm being too strong on that, but some of the things you said maybe were not true. But he goes there, he speaks, and then there is nothing afterward. Should we continue on that approach every time?
No, I wouldn't want you to assume that. So maybe for individual lawmakers, but for the Unity Party, because you know this country, we have.
I mean, as a body.
So the legislature, as he mentioned, the legislature is headed by the speaker, the deputy speaker. You have all those different elements within the legislature, and besides that, and you have a heavily partisan-based legislature, where you have almost majority of the leadership within the legislature, they come from the ruling establishment. So because they come from the ruling establishment,
which was the case when you were there as well.
What do you expect? Not necessarily so, because our legislators, in fact, before our government at the time comes out with anything, there were times that people have a conversation. The political institution have a conversation around where we are as a country. And we know, regardless of all of the challenges we inherited and where Madam President at the time, President Sirleaf, took the country from, every state of the nation address, Madam President always talked about the challenges, where the government didn't do well and how she intends to do well in the next term. But we didn't get that from this regime. It was all spewing of roses, like everything was okay. Even though if you read the Unity Party's response, we did mention about some of the promises President Weah made in the 2022 State of the Nation address. And you look at those promises, about 90% were not met. In fact, it's not just us saying it. It's someone institutions like Eddie's, who will do...
Promises are being made. But they're not being lived up to. Okay.
And the issues, where the government's supposed to be focused, they focus on the attention at where it's supposed to be on the economy, specific aspects of the economy was not met. Talking about, someone talked about the issue of infrastructure. What is infrastructure, if we ask? Is infrastructure, when you talk about building something that will not have, what's the cost-benefit analysis, for example? You talk about stadium right now where you have, what was the environmental impact of the current playground that's been constructed around the BTC barracks? So when you talk about infrastructure, it's not just about the building that's been there. How are the people faring? The actual state of the nation is being felt by the people in the community. That is the state of the nation. What President said was just
wastage words because there's this element of trying to see who can. Why would you even start to measure who can stand longer? It's not about how
we will come to that because
but the content.
Yeah, we will come to that, which is even in line with this question I'm about to ask. When I read through the speech, I saw the president proposing the need to establish a civil service commission, and we already have the civil service agency. So I want to know, is it a good thing that every time the president addresses the nation, you have to have this issue of creating new agencies every time? Are we more effective when we run a smaller government, or where every time we have to have new government? Mr. Jawolo, I will take this question around the table, beginning with you.
Yeah, so if you check the constitution, there's a civil service commission in the constitution. It's a constitutional requirement.
Okay, the civil service commission.
So the government just need to make sure it's implemented. But I want to go back to local government.
So how do we get them different now? The civil service agency and the commission. What?
The commission will be more independent. They'll have tenure. They will work, not putting parties into certain position. That's undermining the growth of our governance process. So the commission should have been set up, been there ever since. It's in the constitution. But I want to go back to I'll go to local government. The president spoke about local government Act past 2018. If you have an assessment around the country, around what they call the county service center, they're all not functional. They don't even have the capacity. The motor bike that was given them more than 5-6 years ago are all broken down. They don't have the capacity. And
all of the county service center.
Oh, people listening can call. People can call. These are institutions that were set up across the country to test what the decentralization program will. The president spoke that is working, but actually not doing much. The president also did not do much on youth. I agree with Fla and Omami. The president was voted basically, most of the voters came from the youth
population. Yeah.
But what have you done for the young people? We're talking about the passage of the Youth Act, the Youth Commission Act, the TVET Commission. More than 2 years ago, when the legislature dominated by sedition, they have not been passed. If you go to the Ministry of Youth and Sport, that issue about deputy minister on TVET, assistant minister TVET, whatever TVET, you go to education ministry. I mean, it's a waste of time. So you can set up all the TVET institutions around the country. When not managed by independent institutions with the people who have the knowledge and skills, it's a waste of time. And we're talking about 9 months to election. We're just talking more about results, about what the government has done, what the challenges, what should we get in second term.
In your most recent activities, you've been having some engagement with your international partners, from UC to other acclaimed world bodies. What is the global view from conversations with global bodies regarding Liberia?
I mean, it'd be difficult to express, but when the president spoke yesterday, he talking about if you're not friendly with America, okay. So what do we do with China? Should we drive them out?
Okay. You think diplomatically that was a blunder?
I'm not a diplomat, but I thought it was wrong.
You thought it was wrong.
You cannot say if you're not friend with America. China also.
In such a broad manner.
Yes.
Yeah. In the faces of the.
But
at the final state of the nation.
Let me just say
this. No, I'm coming, Chief. Mr. Miame, your mouth seems to be a little watery and itchy.
I want to make the commitment. I thought President we have spoken more to cedition than speaking of Liberia. President we have tied his message, everything around his partisan, then the undecided voter and the opposition. To be a leader going for a second round, your message had to resonate with the opposition, resonate with undecided voter to see what they should give your support.
So the point you just raised was something immediately the president made that comment. I just captured that error and sent it to a former foreign minister. And I said, President, we are in the faces of other partners in saying this. Diplomatically, is this right? But let me get Mr. Miama on this. Was that something good?
I'm not a diplomat, and I wouldn't pretend to be one. But I have been around for quite a while now to know that you have to be strategic as a leader, especially at the very highest level when you are making certain statements. Even we in civil society, often than not, are strategic and meticulous in a way we engage with the partners because you don't want to anger any of the people. The president did not speak to the Chinese, he did not speak to the Russians or any specific group, but we know that there are certain countries and certain groups that are not, in very close relationship with the U.S. So in my mind, it wasn't too appropriate politically. But what I want to say, going back to the conversation between Fla and Soup,
Soup.
concerning political nature of the comments that are made or the positions on this platform. I must say that we're criticizing the speech and talking about some of the positives that we see. That does not in any way make us partisan. So once you are objective in the things you say, even at the level of Flash and Tad Namut or any of the groups we have on the platform here, you are speaking to the issues and necessarily you are not a partisan. So I just wanted to make that point so that it's clear. Yes, I mean, I said earlier that a few things have happened, but if you look at governance, the government has not done well around governance. And Eddie spoke about the local government the implementation, the revenue sharing bill, it has been passed. If you look at the county social development fund, for example, a lot of the counties, have been struggling with management of that fund, the political interference and all of that. We saw much of that during the Ellen Johnson led government, and the same things continued under this administration. We haven't seen much change around that, and many of the counties, when you go to, the impact of the funds are not really felt. And I must say that this government, lastly, to conclude, had an appreciable foundation upon which it needed to build to strengthen governance. President Weah didn't have to set up LACC and all of the different faculty institutions that we have. He didn't have to pass the PFM law, although you can make amendment here and there to strengthen it, but he had these things. If anything, given that he has said the previous government was corrupt, we expected him to have, investigated and prosecuted officials from the previous administration. Remember, the officials needed to do the exit declaration. The government would have gone after them. That wouldn't have been a waste anyway. But we didn't see that. So, I mean, when you claim that your predecessor is very corrupt, as they continue to say, but then you refuse to go after them, to prosecute them, to investigate them, then who you are then? I mean, so...
And before I go to Molba, I think there is what in my view constitute either deception or the president was not being frank. The person that actually penned down that speech. He said, when the CDC was in opposition, they were criticizing. They said everything was bad off under the Unity Party-led government. But in the president's speech, he said when they took office, they were taken by surprise to note that the economy was bad in the president's speech. So while you were in opposition, you told the Liberian people that everything was bad, so you needed power. But when you took office, you said you were surprised that everything was bad under the Unity Party-led government.
Do you know that the president
80%,
graded the previous president 80%?
Yeah, he did grade the Unity Party 80%. But Molba, we were talking issues of diplomacy. The president on yesterday, if you were to go and watch the footage, which is still on the internet, the Chinese representative in that clip never clapped. Only the folks from the western part were clapping in the video that is on Facebook. What impact do you think this is going to have on the Weah-led government moving forward in the next couple of months that it has?
One cannot talk about Liberia and then downplay the significance of America when it comes to how we run our country. America is by far our biggest and most significant international partner. But what Mr. Weah did yesterday was a clever attempt to get the attention of the American government and trying to present himself as someone who was taking a more leaning direction toward the United States of America. Because as you know, since he became president, he has not been a friend to the West. I mean, the Americans have not been doing business with Mr. Weah, and he's trying to now present himself as someone who is willing and open, and he's somewhat a no-nonsense guy when it comes to America, and he has to protect the interests of the United States of America. So that was a clever attempt on his part. But while he's trying to get America's attention, he has been able to alienate, to a large extent, our other international development partners. You cannot overlook what China has done in Liberia or what other Western partners are doing in Liberia. To take a more direct role like that and speak of America in the presence of all other diplomatic partners is unacceptable, and it clearly put the Liberian government in a very tough spot. You can engage with the Americans in the background, But again, Mr. Weah likes to present himself to be someone who is more knowledgeable than others, and that is where his missteps come from. You see that he told the Liberian public when he becomes president, we should not measure his performance by beautiful speeches. But you saw Mr. Weah speaking for 3 hours yesterday. That is a clear contradiction of what he says and what he does. He wants to present himself to be the most educated president, the president who delivered the longest speech in the history of our country. Even though he told us that we should not measure his performance by the speeches he delivered, but by the content of the decisions he'll be making. And then he saw the huge diplomatic misstep he took yesterday, and it will bite the Liberian economy in the large extent. Yeah.
So when he's attributed some of the constraints to the Unity Party-led government, were those salient points that he struck? Do you agree with him?
Okay, so since Eddie is here, I will go to the report released by NAPO quite recently. How can President Weah blame the Unity Party for his failures, when in fact he is on record, according to NAMO's recent report, for only fulfilling 8% or completing 8% of 292 promises he made to the Liberian people? We are not suggesting that the Unity Party was a perfect government that happened in 12 years. No. The Unity Party have her own shortcomings. The Unity Party made a lot of terrible mistakes, did a lot of terrible things that are contributing to the things we have under Mr. Weah today. But he cannot shift blame on the Unity Party for the failures of his own government. He's been president for 12 years. This is like a father telling his children, I cannot feed you people because other people's children, fathers are not feeding them. I mean, this is irresponsible and unacceptable on the part of the president. He should be telling us what he has done as president, what he will do if in the next 10 months while he's president and where he wants to take Liberia. You cannot keep blaming everybody but yourself. How has the failure of our government to support the national team, for example, or to improve football in Liberia, how can you aggregate that or blame the Unity Party for that? I mean, it is unacceptable. Mr. Weah clearly proved when he made that statement that he does not know what he's doing as president, that he does not take responsibility for his actions, that he spent millions of dollars and blames others for the millions he's spending. Nobody told Mr. Weah to buy a private jet and be running all over the world. Nobody told Mr. Weah to go for 48 days in Qatar and go watch football games while the people in Liberia are languishing in abject poverty. Nobody told Mr. Weah to not protect the rights of our women and girls and ensure that they live in a decent and civilized society. Nobody told Mr. Weah to reduce the number of primary enrollment among young girls and children in Liberia. Nobody told Mr. Weah to increase the quantity of enrollment at the University of Liberia while drastically reducing the quality in the education at the University of Liberia. Look, Mr. Weah has to man up. He has to take responsibility for his excesses. He has to simply tell the Liberian people he does not know what he's doing as president. He's incompetent. He has failed, and there's nothing that warrants a second term for him. That is exactly what he said yesterday.
Let me come in with Flour and Soup on a very important issue. The student body over the last 5 to 6 years of President Weah's administration, have you, as a student body, I'm starting up with Soup, have you constructively engaged this government through policy issues, giving out the interests and concerns of the young people? Have you had some dialogue with the government where perhaps you proffer some ideas?
Well, the Student Unification Party over the period has been very engaged and participative in ensuring that the Republic of Liberia and the education sector of the Republic is well attended to. This is why, on regular occasions, the chairman of the Student Unification Party always informed the government about their refusal to support education at the University of Liberia. And the chairman of the Student Unification Party on numerous occasions have said to the president and the government that the need to support the education sector of the Republic cannot be overemphasized. On numerous occasions, the chairman of the Student Unification Party has said to Mr. Weah that you must increase the budgetary appropriation to education in line with universal protocol that obligates all governments around the world to allocate at least 20% to education sector of their individual countries. Sadly, in a country like Liberia, under the leadership of a proper government, less than 10% is yet to be allocated to education. And this has been the sad trend of the country since 2018, even though Mr. Weah took office and informed the Liberian people that he has come to mitigate the conditions that he sees as challenges, that he sees as failures.
Okay, so
and the Student Unification Party has been very engaged because the party has opposed the continuous action of the government to politicize education at the University of Liberia. This is why when tuition free was declared at the University of Liberia, it took only the courage, the tenacity and alacrity of the Student Unification Party to critique that pronouncement and said to Mr. Weah that education is not about quantity but qualitative.
So the question now to that is, have you, aside from the verbal advocacies that you've been doing, have you had some dialogue with the government where you reduce some of these concerns to a written document? Have you
a government that is not prepared to dialogue with the student movement, a government that continuously invade the university premises and facilities to brutalize student leaders, that as they have questions, the only crime the students have committed over the period is to say to Mr. Weah, ensure that you allocate at least 30 million to the University of Liberia and see if the university cannot be properly run. The only crime the student movement have committed over the period is to say to Mr. Weah, allocate 20% of the national budget to education. When the Student Unification Party says this, the government unleashed thugs, hoodlums, and punks on the university campus to brutalize and harm student leaders at the University of
let
Liberia.
me get flash.
Let me emphasize on this. It is very necessary to seek the voice of the Federation of Liberian Youth. But this very individual you're about to, ask this question. This is a man that has undermined the qualitative trend, the qualitative advocacies of the Student Unification Party at the University of Liberia. And we want to emphasize this. We want to inform the Liberian people that Duku, as the Secretary General of the Federation of Liberian Youth, he has undermined every progressive advocacies of progressive students at the University of Liberia.
Duku.
So yesterday we were not surprised when Mr. Weah announced as an achievement to ensure the election of one Benica Elliott, who is a private stooge of Mr. Weah. Yesterday we were not surprised. This is why Duku came here. Duku is equating the condition of the people, making a singular remark on the decision of the president to abandon the condition of the young people as a partisan position. Because he understands very well, to make that remark, it would take uneasy feelings to his master, Weah.
I will have Duku respond to those comments and then he can respond to the question that was asked earlier. Duku, how do you respond to these claims?
Thank you so much. I just want to add my opinion on the conversation with America and China. If you follow, I'm not a diplomat, but I believe I'm well versed in history. And if you follow trends, you understand that the power is not resting with the West. You have to pick a side. So President Toybert was not clear on which side he wanted. President Dole was not clear on which side he preferred. As the same with Charles Taylor. So I think President Weah is clear on the side he prefers, East or West. He prefers going with the West. On the issue of the Federation Liberian Youth approach, I'll have to be clear, especially in response to my colleague from the University of Liberia. Our position is the government has done more for the University of Liberia than any other administration in the history of this country.
This government?
Yes.
But that's exactly what we expected from you.
And the reason I'm saying that is because part of our advocacy back then when I was in the university was to ensure that there's more support to the university, ensuring that people have more support to the university. Now we have free education, we have free tuition, there's digital system, there's renovation of the university. That's not been done in the past. My colleague talked about contribution to education is 16.1, it's not 10%. We've communicated with the president in our letter, our personal letter, that the couple of things he has to do. One has to be he has to increase his commitment to education, increase incentives for public school teachers. We've also called on the president to increase support for youth entrepreneurs and youth innovation. But young people, the only way people take us seriously is the way we approach issues. Just a few days ago, my colleagues from the Student Unification Party boo the vice president of Liberia. He was talking about gender equality and representation of women. They boo her and call all sorts of names. I mean, these are not the way we solve problems, but not the way we find solutions. And that's the reason from the start of this conversation, I've said that our position, we've listened to all the post-sonar assessment, and much of it has been about the complaints, the challenges. We already know what the challenges are. We know that the issues with youth unemployment, this issue with, there's so many issues. We know what the issues are. So as stakeholders, what our position have to be, it has to be what the solutions are. Even political party leaders are not telling us what they're going to do to fix some of the problems we already know. What the problems with education, the problems with youth unemployment. How are we going to fix some of these problems? I think that has to be the focus. And our approach to the way we engage the government on solving some of these issues also have to be our focus.
Madam Kula, is it true that the political parties are not showing the way forward?
What I will say to that is that apparently the Federation of Liberian Youth is not listening, and probably the Federation of Liberian Youth is listening to one side of the political space, maybe the ruling establishment. But I will say to my brother Duku and the rest of the team at the Federation of Liberian, in the previous government, I was at the Ministry of Youth and Sports, where we play some leadership role along the lines of working with FLIES and the rest of the institutions there. It is important that young people understand that the challenges of our country is vast. And to take an institution that, like the Federation of Liberian Youth or the Liberian National Students Union or the Mano River Union Youth Parliament, all those youth institutions that are supposed to be there to not necessarily be spokesperson for the government, but as partners, so you are there to advocate on behalf of the young people and work along with the government and ensure that the young people, it is not just certain young people within urban areas. If you go across the country today, the challenges the young people are faced with, they're enormous. So instead of Duku, I'm hoping that the letter he spoke about that he submitted to the president, similar letter can be submitted to the Unity Party. Our party is open. In fact, if you look at right now the Unity Party, you see majority of our Unity Party leaders are young people. People who, the current Secretary General, myself within the party, a lot of other young people who are within the political party. And I can tell you this for sure. And this is similar in other political parties that are within the opposition community. So it's important that institutions like the Federation of Liberian Youth should not stoop so low and just be one-sided, because you know what, the young people cut across every facet of our population. And as Mohammed mentioned earlier, the total number in terms of the statistics on the number of young people that this country can boast of, I mean, with this census, even though the report is not yet out, we hope that Licious and the rest of the other people who are in charge can release that as soon as possible. But Liberia, the point is Liberia is a very youthful country. So to have an institution like the Federation of Liberian Youth, it's important to be open, to be willing or happy for criticism, to see criticism as something that will help develop and strengthen the institution, and not just see it only as voices for the
criticism is just in alignment with the question I'm about to pose to Senta and Nemot.
Yeah, but let me come in briefly.
Okay, come in, Dugu.
The Federation of Liberian Youth, in my opening statement, we share the concerns of everybody on the panel that the president's speech was not heavy on youth development. It was said immediately after the president delivered his address, we communicated with the president and the legislature that this is what we have to do. Our frustration, what I've been regurgitating throughout the conversation has been, it's not been solution-based. Madam Fofana talked about, I've not been listening. I've listened to all of the statements. No political party in Liberia is talking about how to end unemployment in Liberia or youth unemployment. No political party is talking about how to reform education, how to integrate vulnerable young people. I mean, these are the kinds of conversations we're interested in. And engaging these conversations in a civic, responsible way. So we're not taking any side. We're taking an objective approach. On the 16th of February, the Federation of Liberian Youth will launch its annual work plan, which will represent, which will show our path toward how we want to engage, political parties and institutions in an objective and impartial way. So, I mean, I don't, it doesn't appear like we're taking any side. And I
Okay.
think that position is
Just
misinformed.
quickly, I'm hoping that on your conclusion of your annual work plan, please share it with the Unity Party. We're open to reviewing. In fact, if you look at the platform of the Unity Party has consistently worked with young people. The Unity Party was the very first institution to ensure that young people were very involved and active in the governance.
Okay.
And not just only just any kind of different programs, because under the UP-led government, there were lots of youth empowerment programs. There were the YOP, YEP, even the current, even the TVET program, it was under the Unity Party government that a lot of those things happened. So, I mean, with the different situation that's ongoing, it's important that institutions such as FLY, Lindsay, the Manor River Parliament engage all sectors. In our current platform, there's a specific pillar on youth empowerment and employment, specifically under the
So Duku rather, you've heard that. So you have to engage with the opposition community as well on this matter. But I was saying
we're currently engaged. We're working with youth leaders from different political parties.
Okay, Mr. Jawolo, I was coming to you and Senta on this issue of criticism. So the work that you do, as well as Senta, it is to some level viewed under the spectrum as critiquing or checkmating the government. What is your fair view about the democratic credential of this government? Were you surprised, by the way, to not have heard the president mention some of the work that you have been doing within the civil society community?
Yeah, so the issue about political tolerance I talk about in our society is lacking.
Okay.
It's the perception that when you come from civil society, you're a novice.
Okay.
You don't have no understanding about governance. You don't have right to talk about it. But we choose to do that. We went to school, we learn. We thought that's the part that we should play to hold the government accountable. There's something called political accountability. When you go to election and promise people, it's just fair that you fulfill those promises as part of a social contract. But I just want to go back a little bit to the youth issues. Being somebody who has worked a long time with young people.
Okay.
As long as you allow the Ministry of Youth and Sport to control the budget of FLA and LINSU, the independent of the institution will be very questionable.
Okay. Because the person that sits at the top is a government appointee.
That's a government appointee. We have been thinking about how do we amend the law. The law that created this institution, make them more independent and allocate budgetary.
Mohammed, do you agree with that? That those that sit at the level that LINSU and
I'll finish it.
yeah, I want to get Mohammed's thought on this.
Yeah, the father of the Ministry of Youth and Sport control the budget. See how much they get FLA. I mean, the money they get FLA and LINSU is a peanut that can do anything. I've been talking to somebody, can we amend the law? And I tell you, the leadership of FLA can even tell you whether there's a law that created them. All they talk about is the constitution. But it's a law that created the institution. If you find the law, amend the law, get them more power and get them more independent and get an allocation to deliver on a particular thing every year. That'll be the best thing to do. But everybody want to control the young people now, divide them into meditate, sing behind them, clap behind them, wear that t-shirt, rather to get people on the field after election they are done.
Okay.
The young people need to be more serious, more independent, be critical, do research, and hold the government accountable.
Okay.
That should be your job.
Let me get Senta respond to this question, then I'll come to Mohammed. We are trying also to make sure that we set up to have District 17 big man, Honorable Henson Kazulu, join us. But back to you, Senta, Mr. Miame. I was asking the question, do you think this government, what is your fair assessment of the government's democratic credential as those who are checkmating the government, be it on the issues of governance, transparency, and other issues? What is your fair view?
The government passed the Camara Freedom of Information, Freedom of the Press Act. Even though there are issues that we can cite in terms of the space not being entirely conducive for independent advocacy and all
because
of that.
I even want to mention the situation with Punch TV. You talk about the issue of Henry Costa as well. So passing the Abdullah Kamara Act is one thing, but practicality.
But what I can also say is that the fact that we're on this platform and engaging, NAMO has been producing reports, publishing reports, although some of the time, concerns here and there in terms of people not taking lightly these reports when they come up. Even Centaur here, when we issue reports like the statement we did today and the other reports, some of the time people call us, and they call our names and all kinds of stuff. But generally, I can say that we have an appreciable environment, conducive environment for advocacy. Yes, there are issues here and there that we can.
Do you think this government has a good democratic credential? That was the question.
Yeah, yes, I can say for the most part, we have an appreciable. That's what I'm saying. I'm qualifying my statement. If they were me, have a democratic credential, they're fine. But what I'm saying is the issues, there are instances where people were targeted. There have been mysterious deaths, over time that we've spoken to. But then I can say that the fact that we're here having this conversation, we can say that yes, the space exists. Yes, the issues can be there. We can talk about them. What I wanted to talk about concerning the hopeful youth engagement of youth development in Liberia, I want to agree with Eddie that the way our government has handled youth issues in Liberia has not been in a way that sustainably and more tangibly and concretely these young people will be supported in ways that are independent. I've had conversations with people at FLA, for example, and usually I wonder why an institution that represents the interests of young people in Liberia should be renting and in some, and this not to bottom of them in any way. This is how the system has wanted them to be, so that in some of the instances, people manipulate them for different reasons. And I'm not being negative here, but we need to do more for the young people to empower them in more substantive ways that they can be independent in the things we do, so that because FLA has a lot to do, not just in Montserrat, but in the counties, to empower young people themselves, to give them the opportunities needed. But we haven't seen that over time under the previous government, even under this government as well. We haven't seen that. And we need to
Thank you so much. We've been joined by Victory 17 representative, but before I bring him along, let me read out some of the comments that are popping up on our page this afternoon. Beginning with David Flomo, he says, "Good afternoon, Punch family. Keep up the good work. Charles T. Cooper says, "Yesterday's Sona was the most boring Sona I've ever listened to." Still got Daniel K. Binder. He says, "I'm currently following you guys live from Red Hill, Omega Community, Painesville." Keep putting your comments through. Sekou Kanen says, "Good afternoon, family." Let me see if I go through some of the comments that are popping up on the screen. Lord Cha Colley says, "The president should have used that opportunity to tell the people the reason he should be re-elected." Can we have some of the comments popping up? Browning W. Sochi says, what is the echo in the background? I think he's raising concern on some technical issues. Lord Cha Colley, that Sona was mostly from 2019 Sona. Okay, he believes some cut and paste were done. Lord Cha Colley again, "The president talked about over 500 million remittances to Liberia, but couldn't tell how much leaving Liberia." That's a key point. I think we will have some of the guests commenting on it. Diana Zevan says, okay, these are some of the comments that are popping up, but let me go to Honorable Kazulu. We will open the phone line subsequently. 775-145-832 is the number that you will call to be a part of the discussion this afternoon. Honorable Kazulu,
I think you said after the gun speaker, you could have come to address the issue of
the FLA being independent, right?
No, the issue of young people.
But let me get our guest that is just coming. I'll come back to you, Chief. Honorable, welcome to the platform.
Thank you.
I will appreciate it. Great. So yesterday we all follow President Weah's address. You also come from the opposition community, but you are a member of the legislature. I would like to get your fair view on what you make of the statement on yesterday, be it positives, negatives, whether falsehoods were spewed. What are some of the things you captured, the highlights?
Okay, first of all, let me tell the other panel, great job. guys were top of the issue. Your responses were good. Unfortunately, I didn't attend the last SONA.
But I'm sure you follow.
Yeah, I did. And I read some portion because it's so bulky. I have other engagement, reading engagement. I couldn't just go through. But from a skin look of it, there were some good things. Those things were not included in the SONA. And there were things that have to do with the public. They were not actually mentioned. They were all an engagement by the government. For example, I didn't hear or I have not read, since I read, what those good things are happening at JFK, like the dialysis machine, the DNA machine. Okay, these are good things in the health sector that were deployed. I have not come across that. Maybe Malirus is talking across here, or Elbag and we, or it's politician, police, or referee. So I didn't hear about those one in the health sector because they actually transitioned and elevated our health system a bit. I didn't hear about those things. I didn't hear about those things that matters to the public. For example, in the security sector, the auditors that died. Okay, this is the concluding SONA. Okay. It should incorporate some of the daring things that actually occur in the security sector of the government or against the government as well, because why against the government most time is in fear of the public. We stay on the outlook to get a clear explanation from the president and the country. What really happened
to the auditor? Someone will say about the gay autopsy report. Okay. One, we can't just
believe the autopsy report because the president prejudiced that. He said the people were having success in their vehicle. Okay, but to us as people and conscious-minded people, we actually want to know what really occurred. Then the guy who got shot in his head, I'm told
he is shot in his head. Unfortunately, we all can't believe that
story. Some of the clergymen in Liberia could cleverly tell you, we don't play with gun, but one gun shot in the head, you're gone. Till one day, how we a diamond fired the first gunshot in his brain, then he fight again to do 2 additional shots. So we didn't believe those things. We expect the president to be fair enough to the people of Liberia to tell them, look, this investigation, they are in the conclusion or they have been concluded, but we try to hide the facts from the public. None of those things are read in the SONA, neither they are listened to. Okay. I heard people talking about, the man poor grammar pronunciation. Look, Liberians pay too much attention to things that is trivial. Okay. If President William was speaking and you were speaking the facts and having some clue inside, we could appreciate the facts. And now the clue you put in inside. And even if the facts that come through his dialect, we were going to appreciate it. But most of the things that were said, it was just to elevate their campaign activities for 2023 from exactly what I've read. And to summarize, some people say blind. What is the common word black? And I wrote in a black. And then they try to abuse it. They tell you, the Liberian or other readers that it doesn't have weight. Okay, it doesn't have weight. Some substances were there, yes. Like for example, political actors and those are actively involved in the body politic of Liberia and want to strengthen the democratic space of this country as compared to other West African countries. They want to hear a presidency free and fair election. And that was grabbing our whole thing. That was the real issue that I think I wanted to hear, because
To say it is one thing.
Unfair election, he robbed the country into a private. And don't think you get gone.
So you just want to hear it? Because
no.
The person could say it, but in the background.
He's sincere.
You think so?
Look, the president was not speaking just for his cabinet ministers. This speech is for the Liberian people. This is why he went to the deputies. Okay, we are the direct representative of the people.
Honorable, free and fair election. How much money are you getting election commissioner?
No,
how do you conduct free and fair election? How money?
No, I'm coming now. We're coming to that. We're coming to that because there are two issues there. The president pronouncement and our quest that he gave the full support to the election commission. Okay, there are two different things. And so for me, for a president, and I want to hold him by word, and I ask all of us to hold him by word because any issue with the democratic credential of the country, it could slide into chaos and they could be affected. Look, though had the highest gone here, he got affected because he played with it. Taylor had the rebel almost in every corner. He wanted to play with it, it affected him. So in all fairness, I believe George Weah once said he better day came when he heard rebel were in Kakata and I think Banga and airport was closed. He had just entered Liberia to talk to his family to tell them that he had signed a contract. Then no airplane again to leave. That was a better time for him. So I believe he has experienced, and all of us that are involved in this thing, we have experienced the history. Okay, no one's going to write history and you make error in it and will not tell you. Because
you believe that President Weah has some gains?
Of course, this is what I'm saying.
Do you think those gains warrant him having a second chance?
No. The reason the gains is far less than actually the evil that marked the entire government. Besides the security lapses, when good professional people that have been trained by government money, they have been slaughtered in cold blood, no result, no account. Look, I can grade the government for a second term. Although people will say my grade is not important because I'm already in the opposition bloc. But I think Ellis is here with us. He knows what we're talking. Okay, he knows that people die in cold blood here, and people may fall out of.
So just in line with the question that you raised,
his pronouncement that he will conduct free, fair, and democratic election, we should applaud it and challenge him to do it. But besides saying it, there are other factors. There are active ingredients in making a democratic system.
When you talk about support to the
okay, in that too, next shouldn't be corrupt. We need to be fair with them. Not because you're advocating for, their support. So elements there should direct those supports. With them following cases in the media about transactions at NDC that they start and say we are not comfortable, and they start to leak those information. They went to court, they won, but remember there's an Indian adage that when the faith of the world collapse, it cannot be rebuilt. Why you are doing when they took you to court? They say for stealing. So next, I believe they listen to the president and they're not going to conduct election.
Madam Kula, do you trust President Weah to conduct a free and credible election under his administration?
First of all, I've been saying, how long do we have the elections? Already, the timetable of what NEC said, for example, the voter registration, it should have been held since when? February. And now it was postponed. What is the next thing? We hope that what he has said, especially what Honorable Kazulu just talked about his intending to hold free, fair, and transparent election, but it's one thing to say something, and it's another thing to actually do it. Like Eddie mentioned, what has he done? Do we have the resources needed to conduct elections? It's not something you can just wake up and do the next day. It requires proper planning. It requires ensuring that our people in all of the 15 political subdivision of this country are reached. You're talking about understanding, training people. In fact, I just saw that they right now just recently started recruiting voter educators. So
I mean, we are setting up a system, and especially so in this election, for the first time, you are going to be introducing biometric registration. It requires a whole form of education for our people. Our people, majority of whom do not know how to read and write. And there's this whole brawl around whether or not there, in fact, just yesterday evening, relatives of mine, aunties and uncles were asking, oh, my uncle, what's happening? Do we have to have passport before we get registered? These are concerns our people have. So if we have all of these issues and you've not even given NEC up to 70%, by this time, you have less than 10 months to elections. By this time, NEC information officers should be all across the country, educating our people, telling our people what to expect, especially on this new process of new registration.
I see, Mr.
Even though we want to applaud his comments, because for us we saw it as, because they were diplomatic people, the American people were there as supported, and others, but I think we need him to be more result oriented. We need him to speak, and we will ensure, regardless of what political parties we're from, all the opposition will unite to ensure that President Weah holds free, fair, credible, and transparent elections, and no attempt to even usurping any form of breaking any form of unfair election will be upheld.
Okay.
We will fight it too.
Mr. Jallo wants to make a comment, and then I'll come back to Honorable Kazulu to tell us what he thinks, in his view, constitute President Weah's greatest legislative achievement from their own angle at the legislature. But you were putting your hand up.
Yeah, I want to make one ambition to the free, fair election I'm talking about.
Okay.
So first of all, the president already started pre-campaign. Pre-campaign already started.
Okay. In the speech on yesterday, you think?
I mean, just drive around the city. You cannot have a free and fair election when there's no level playing field.
Okay.
And the legislature that have the oversight functions are sitting and looking at the government, already violating the law. They are something called electoral legal framework. We got to have election in line with the code of conduct. There are many code of conduct we cannot find it anywhere, where people who in the executive that want to contest should resign 1 year. They're not working. And people in the legislature who are even opposition not saying anything. They amend the electoral law that get 30% to both the leaders, the structure of the party, and candidate. The ruling party have a party convention with less than 15%. Nobody say anything. Pre-election going on. Nobody say anything. Now I receive less than 25%, quote me, of the $51 million that were approved by the government. $10 million should be coming from the foreign partner, making it 61 million. Never receive less than 25%. Now multi-election. Free and fair election. Now one white man say that with white shirt waiting to say we're free and fair. It's the action and activity that make election free and fair. And I'm disappointed in the opposition that sit in the legislature, sit and see the violation. Even the last State of the Nation address, the president said they are build 100 housing unit in Bon County in a district controlled by opposition that sat and clap.
Honorable Kazulu,
when the horses are there,
we have an opposition lawmaker here. I'm sure he want to take you on that. Yeah. He said, yeah. You just sit there. The president tells you anything, and he walks out. Yeah, you sit there. The president says everything, and he walks out.
And the pre-campaign
unfortunately, when we enter the legislature, Elijah know about this. I think my sister said she's a political activist. She knows what I'm about to say. When we get to the legislature, we were in the majority, including independent lawmakers.
Okay.
Remember, we're dealing with a group of people that they also thinking, though they think in a perfect form. They decided, the weakling among us, they decided to talk to them. Like, for example, all the lawmakers that here from the Southeast, they call all of them to meeting and they say, this is a Southeastern government.
Okay.
Yeah. We'll do that. Most of our lawmakers, they left. And they saw part of a pains, our wisdom to even talk about it. Those are aging, or those that are being in government from Dothan or Tobotan, Dothan, and in Johnson Sally time, they were propagating no kind of diversity mechanism to lower the prestige of the legislature.
Okay.
And they took half. Unity Party, Richard Kuhn, I heard he came from the Southeast too, Dopo, Nesai. they were the only people that stood their ground and say, we cannot change our course of politics in this place. But all the errors that you can think about that are supposed to direct us, we just get in government. Okay? They all decided to sing that jingoes.
Okay. So you have limited strength.
Yeah.
Okay.
So when they left, the independents left. The fear of us stay. Look, even the CD player, you put in your radio or your tape in your car. It play. It can get straight and get cut off. Yeah. Because over there it's an issue of strength. Your strength should lie in your foot.
Okay.
Even the budget come in that place. You don't see, for me, I'm far away from budget. All my education I accounting.
Okay.
I'm an accounting specialist. But remember, those are the forestry, agriculture, they put in the budget.
Okay. Let me.
Everything is about food. And the president was calling before yesterday, my radio of granny, but I could hear Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, yeah.
Mr. Speaker, yeah, you are not making error. That guy is a pure woman. You don't see.
Oh, you think that was not an error?
No.
Okay.
To deal with that man 6 years, and he cannot stand to a bad policy of government. Yeah, he recruit people. That's a little behavior. So for me, my
I will take serious exception to that.
No, I said, and you're strong.
I will take serious exception to that.
Hello.
Okay, so I wanted to get Mr. Miame on this. I'll come to you, Mohammed.
Yeah, you can say he's
What's your position on this credible election? Mr. Kasulu, we have someone on the floor.
Hello.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah.
I'm sure Mr. Kiasulu will take his comments back because it can reduce our women, very powerful, capable, able women who have been contributing to our governance process to that level. So I'm sure he will do that. But what I can say is that, we listen to him. The indications that I'm getting from him is that because they don't have the number, they have not been doing anything. And I'm sure that's not what he's trying to tell us here on this platform and the Liberians that are out there, that because they don't have the number, they don't have the ability to do certain things. When you are speaking out, there are different ways you can make your voice heard. And of course, at the end of the day, you'll go back to those who voted you to say, look, when you put me there, these are the things that I did. Even though I had X, Y, and Z challenges, but we had to navigate those challenges to achieve the results that we ended up achieving. So I'm sure he will look at that. And not, make excuses for, what they could not do necessarily because they didn't have the number. There are so many things that they can do. On the issue of the legislature generally, I would say that the legislature has been a disappointment. Maybe this disappointment would be even an understatement because the role they have to play in our governance process is very critical. But they have not played that role over time. The legislature, to the best of our recollection, has not been audited. I know maybe the representative would say it is maybe the responsibility of the leadership to lead on that, but compliance of the legislature or the legislators with the key laws we have, the code of conduct, and most of the other instruments we have is very, very limited. So audio of the legislature,
gentlemen,
since 2006, there's no information on that. On the elections, generally, I can say that we need much more. Just to add my voice to the many voices to say that as we move to these elections, we have to be clear that there has to be credibility around it. There has to be a level playing field. Citizens all across the country have to have the information that they can use to make informed decisions as they go to the polls in October. This is important because election is an important accountability tool. And maybe since we might not have much more time to say, I'd like to say to Liberians out there that this is an opportunity for us to elect people to power who have shown over time that they have what it takes to deliver. People who have a track record of accountability.
Mr. Mohammed, due to the time factor, let me take Mohammed on this one. Mohammed, quickly, you have been on the standby.
Yeah, thank you very much.
And this will constitute your concluding statement.
Yeah, thank you. And before I go ahead with my conclusion remark, I would like to address this particularly when Dugu said the vice president was booed. We want to say that was an exercise executed by the students of the University of Liberia, and we endorse and support the action of the students because the Vice President of the Republic of Liberia, over the period, has participated in the humiliation and the brutalization of the student movement of this country. In 2002 of March 22nd, when the university facilities and premises were invaded by the thugs of Charles Gange Taylor, she was the first leader of the Republic of Liberia. It did not stop there. In her capacity as the Vice President of the Republic, on numerous occasions, the militants and stalwarts of the national student movement have suffered numerous brutalization on the premises and campuses of the University of Liberia.
Okay.
If you like, it was the March 31st, 2022. If you like, it was July 26, 2022. And she did not give any opposing remark as quote-unquote mother of the Republic. She endorsed it, and anytime she is seen around the perimeters of the University of Liberia, if she is seen around there, we will muster the courage as students of the university to
Mohammed,
but this is very cardinal.
Mohammed, we have to go.
You talk about democracy, and it will be very unjust as a student unification party to participate in this conversation without giving, a contributing remark. Because over the period since October 20, 1970, it has taken the struggle credentials of the student unification party to usher in participatory democracy in the homeland. We want to say to the Liberian people
Mohammed,
that
we have to go. Due to the time, we will have to go, Mohammed.
Mr. Weah is prepared to rig this election and want to inform the masses of the Liberian people they have to be involved to ensure that this election is protected.
Mr. Jawolo, let me get a concluding statement quickly in some 30 seconds.
Thank you, Vanek. So we call on the president to know that he's president of the people of the Republic of Liberia, not sedition. We expect more from the president. I know the president spoke about the arm, but less on the drugs. He talked none about the diplomatic passport that's up there. We want the president to give full support to the National Election Commission.
Okay.
Free and fair election is not just the talk, it's the action. NEC is actually brought to conduct election.
Okay. He wants to see political will. Madam Kula, let me have your parting comments.
Right. Let me say a very big thank you to you, and I think the conversations here this evening is important, and it's important that we continue having these conversations. I would also like to inform the Liberian people that the Unity Party is in full swing on a rescue mission headed by His Excellency Ambassador Joseph Yuma Boakai Rescue 1 to help rescue the motherland. And we have a very detailed platform titled Arrest. It centers on agriculture, roads, education, sanitation, tourism that will help transform this country. And in that, you have youth development and women's economic empowerment. So this is important that we have these conversations and let the Liberian people know that where the Unity Party took Liberia from, the Unity Party is the people, the group of institutions that will come together to put Liberia back on the trajectory of development that is well needed. Rescue mission reloaded.
Thank you so much, Madam Kula. Honorable Kazulu, let me have your concluding statement.
I'm sorry, I didn't even talk much.
Yes, due to the time that you actually came.
I hope the next time I'll be on time. But what I can tell you that even the civil society actors, along with the very secure, every sector of our country, that's what I wanted to conclude.
Okay.
They want a change that will make us to get on the right trajectory. You won't believe it. 3.3 billion plus money was generated by this government in 6 years. If you tell you the achievement and it's the one they stole, you could actually clap for them when they tell you how much they have in foreign bank account. So we, as Liberians, we should hold the president responsible that our democracy should slide off our leader. Let other countries respect us as own country. Yeah, can be progress this time around.
Thank you. Mr. Mohammed, just 30 seconds quickly.
Sorry, thank you for this opportunity. As we go to the polls, we want to tell Liberians that if you shine their eyes, people will be coming to them with different promises. Let them look at the track record of people who will be coming to them to elect individuals that will really represent their interest. Thank you. It's been a pleasure being here, and we look forward to further engagement.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you so very much. Thanks as well to those that have been following the broadcast. This is Punch TV. The program has been Trending Issues. My name is Vanny Dix. It has been an exceeding pleasure to have every one of you on. Madam Kula V. Fofana, active public relations chairperson of the former ruling Unity Party. Vistry 17 Big Man, Honorable Hensin Kiazulu, Mohamed Shabazz from the student community. We had also Mr. Eddie Jawolo from Nemot, Anderson Miamen from Centaur. Earlier on we had Mohamed Kesseli, Molba Kesseli from the youth angle of the Alternative National Congress, as well as Duku Jala from FLA. Thank you, gentlemen and lady. This has been a wonderful presentation. My name is Vanny Dix. Have yourselves a wonderful and a pleasant time. Bye-bye.
I say, see bestie, wanting to